Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast. We're your hosts, Monty Wyatt and Paul Szynski. Wherever you are in life, there is a higher ceiling. This podcast is how you become aware of it and how to take action to push through it. It's time to discover your ceiling. Before we get into this month's episode, here's a short message from Adding Zero's Executive Development. As CEO, you demand performance and results from your team. If you're committed to developing a cohesive, driven organization that achieves successful outcomes every single month, we need to talk. It's time to see how organizational and executive development from Adding Zeros can help. We focus on strategic planning, executive coaching, team alignment and engagement, organizational culture, and clarity of implementation. Contact Monty Wyatt by booking an appointment at www.addZerosNow.com. That's ADDZEROSNOW.com, AddZerosNow.com. If you're ready, now is the time. I have a few coaching spots available for 2025. Lock in your team today. Now let's begin today's episode. Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast, where we talk about your health, your family, your business. I'm Monty Wyatt.
I'm Paul Szynski.
And if you are a CEO, an executive, or a business owner, this is the show for you. We call our audience the achiever because you're always striving for the next level. I am excited about our conversation today. It's a gentleman that I heard at my breakfast club a few weeks back, and he told us about his organization, about their culture, and how they've grown. And I really wanted him to share our story because I thought our audience would really benefit from it. So today we have with us Jon Jackson. He's Vice President of Technology at the Baker Group here in Des Moines, Iowa. He is a father, a husband, a son. He's blessed to be married to his wife for 30 years. And he loves to go to work where he can be his authentic self. And I love that. I want to hear more about that. He grew up in Clear Lake, and he's said he spent the first half of his life in medical sales, and then he came to Baker Group in 2012. So he loves hunting and fishing, and look forward to our conversation. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
You bet.
Be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing about the different things. We, as I said, we always start with a little topic.
Yep.
And I think this relates to Baker Group quite a bit. Our topic today is others first leadership. So putting others first when we lead. So, Paul, I'll have you go first again. What do you think of when I hear that, or when you hear that phrase, others first?
What that means to me, when I hear something like that, that's talking about you want to lead, but you want to pick up the people that work for you. What leadership they have qualities, because you don't want to micromanage somebody. You want them to lead. And if you can build leaders out there that are within your company, that makes the whole team better. And that's what I like. You're building leaders within the group, and you want them to step up and share their talents. And that's a way to do it. And that's how I look at that phrase.
I love it. Jon, what do you think?
Yeah, I love that you picked that topic, because our leadership model at Baker Group is inwardly sound and others focused. And so to me, others focused is, to what Paul said, propping people up, but then being able to find your success in the success of others. And we really focus on that all the way from the CEO down to our field staff. We're always trying to make other people successful, our clients successful. It's really all about finding our success and the success of others.
I love how you said that, helping others be successful. Because I think every person can and should be a leader in a business. And sometimes they have to be given the responsibility, or they have to be given the opportunity to become a leader. And when the manager helps their team be more of a leader, it becomes easier to manage, easier to run the business.
Right.
And so I look forward to hearing how Baker Group does that, because I think it's very interesting. So,
yeah.
Well, Jon, appreciate you joining us. And
yeah.
I really want to start off with a little history lesson.
Sure.
Of your career and how you got to the Baker Group and what your responsibilities are there, if you would.
Sure. Okay, so I spent about the first 20 odd years of my life in medical sales. I spent a lot of time traveling. I made a joke for about 5 years. I commuted to Omaha and Lincoln, working for a company selling capital medical equipment. And I really enjoyed it, but over the course of time, I got recruited to go to a really large company, and there was a point where they had a riff and they basically laid off about 4,000 people. And I kind of got caught up into that about 11 months after I'd been at this company. So I spent about 5 months unemployed. It was probably the hardest time of my life, and probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Ended up at Baker Group. But the way I ended up at Baker Group is my son he was about a sophomore in high school, I believe, and he was at the gym. I went to pick him up, and a woman who was a mother of a classmate was picking up her son, and Alec had been at their house over the weekend, and she just started asking him a couple of questions, or asking me questions while we were in the parking lot, which led to her husband calling me, which led to me ending up at having an interview with Baker Group, a handful of people, and then BJ, and then it was that's really how it all started. And interestingly enough, my wife hadn't worked for 9 years. And when I got laid off, we both just decided it's time for us both to kind of refigure things out. And we both signed employment agreements at the exact same day to go to work. And I'm really blessed. She had a great job, was able to, for me, I was basically able to start my career all over at age 42, and probably couldn't have done it if she wouldn't have been able to help me out doing that. So that's the really short story of how I ended up at Baker Group.
You're blessed.
I am blessed.
You know, you're blessed.
Yeah.
And you're right. The Baker Group, what a wonderful group. They've been around, I mean, they've been, when
1963.
1963. And it was BJ's dad that started that in 1963. And he was a hard-charging, hard-working man. And as you know, we were talking earlier that, here's a guy that runs a big company, but he had no problem jumping in a ditch and working right with them.
Right.
And I believe you got a picture of that.
Yeah,
too.
there is a picture of Bernie Baker standing in a ditch, a muddy ditch, wearing a suit.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a few times. I never was able to meet Bernie, but I mean, if he's any half of a guy that BJ is, he's an awesome person.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get to meet him through my promotional company. I used to do professional boxing. I had a company called Capital Promotions, and he always bought tickets, but he always bought front row tickets.
Yeah.
And he enjoyed it, and that's how I met BJ through the process. And of course, they were big East Side boxing supporters for the amateurs too. Golden Gloves. Baker Group's been a part of a lot of fundraisers, actually.
They've done a ton of stuff for the East Side. There's a hospice house in their name. Boys and Girls Club was a really big.
That was a big push.
Yep.
And
Yep.
BJ
Still is to
still
this
is.
day.
BJ
He's still really involved with it.
But I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
here. But we have talked, and culture is a big thing in any working with the employees. And I know you have give us an idea how the breakdown of BJ Group, they call it a group. So tell us about the companies, how it's broken out, and how you built culture and the right type of employees to put them on the right seats of the bus. How did you do that?
It's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So Baker Group is basically 7 different companies. We call them business units. Other companies might call them divisions. Every business unit has its own P&L, but we work really, really hard to not be siloed, to try and work together. When we're taking care of clients in the best way, every business unit is involved, and we're helping each other. We're helping each other in the pursuit, in the execution, in the service afterwards. We really try to work together. So those 7 business units are mechanical, sheet metal, electrical, technology, service, automation.
Okay. So John, this company started in 1963.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the owner, I believe, passed with cancer back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It must have been around, I want to say late 98, 99. And then his son, BJ Baker, took this over.
Yep.
At that time, it was just one, wasn't it? And then you broke it off from there. Give us a little history on that and how that was done. And why was that done?
So it started out, Bernie was a fitter in the Navy. And so he started out basically as a plumbing company. And when you look at like the different systems in a building, there's mechanical systems, which really are like piping systems, mechanical systems, but then there's like the sheet metal side of it, which is the air side of it. So you like have the water side of it or the fluid side of it and then the air side of it. So it just made sense for him to like grow into the ductwork business and the sheet metal business. And then there's an automation system that runs all that. And so it just made sense, like, let's diversify into automation and bring that on. And then they just continue to look like we've always had a service department. So we service everything that we install, mechanical systems, security systems. And I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago, we had never been an electrical contractor. But one day everybody looked at each other and said, we have 80 electricians working for us, 80-ish. I don't know what the real number was. With all these data centers that are starting to move into this is an opportunity we probably need to go get into. And so we became an electrical contractor. And that did polarize us with some people that we had done a lot of work with over the years. But it was BJ saw the opportunity, BJ and Gary saw the opportunity and just said, this is a path we need to head down. And we're a really large electrical contractor now.
Well, that's interesting. So you saw that opportunity, your leaders did,
Yep.
And that's when they started breaking that apart to each running its own.
Not really breaking it apart, really just adding services.
Okay, adding services.
Yeah. In fact, we work really hard not to be broken apart. We really want to work together.
Okay. Let's talk about this. So each unit runs by its own P&L. So
Yep.
each department is responsible for making their profit and their profit margins and their sales.
Yep.
Okay. And then how does that? Okay.
And part of the reason that makes sense is my business. We call it technology. It's a security business.
Right.
The overhead of a security business or a service business is way higher than it is, let's say, of an electrical contractor or a mechanical contractor. Their overhead may be 4 to 11%, somewhere in there. Ours runs 28%, 27%, 25%, depending on the months and the revenue and how each month kind of shakes out. And so it kind of makes sense to have those individual disciplines. We're a union contractor, and so they're all different trades. Mm-hmm. Each one of those business units is signatory to, like us in electrical, to the 347. And so it just kind of makes sense to have them operate like that under one roof, working together, trying to collaborate on everything we do. Otherwise, you're working with a mechanical contractor, a different electrical contractor, a different security contractor, a different sheet metal contractor, a different service provider on the end. We're trying to wrap it all into one.
Yeah. So you're also going out and each company puts their own bids in.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me your role and how you fit in this system.
Yeah. So I lead the technology business unit, which, like I said, we changed the name. It used to be called Fire and Security because we install and sell fire alarm and security systems. We changed the name about, I'm going to say 10 years ago before I was in it, to technology because we also do some parking and some parking revenue systems. We installed the parking guidance system at the airport, the lights in the ramp. We do that. We do a lot of gates, stuff like that. So we changed the name to technology. But so I lead that business unit. I'm responsible for everything, the execution, the pursuits, the operations. I have an operations manager. I have project managers. Our project managers, we call them seller doers. We think that's something that makes us really unique. Our project managers who are going to execute the work are also the people that sell the work. And so a project manager, or you can call them a salesperson if you want, makes a promise to a client. They're also the ones that have to execute that job and live up to that promise. And so versus a lot of security contractors have a salesperson, they sell it, they hand it off to a project manager, they never see it again. So it's just a different approach. It keeps us connected to the client long term. I have a project manager who's been in this business for all of his adult life. And he has clients that he's selling security systems to for the 4th or 5th time because he's just put his arms around them. He takes care of them. When things get outdated or it's time for an upgrade.
Service.
Yeah, he's been there. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
That is amazing how you. It's a great. I think it's a great. It's a great structure. I think, and be able to, but you got to get talent, and from the engineering and the breakup of what you have, I'm just going to about bet Iowa State University is a big factor in your because there's some of the most talented people you can get is out of Iowa State University.
Yeah,
and I'll about bet probably about 80% of the people come out of Iowa State. I'm guessing. I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know what the percentage is, but it's high. Yeah, it's really high. We have, I don't know what so we have 41 interns this summer coming to Baker Group. It's the most we've ever had. I think last year we had like 27 or 28. My business will have 2.
Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So I mean, Monty and I talk about this all the time, hiring the right people and the process of hiring those people. So I'm guessing out of the 41 interns, they're probably not all at Iowa State, but are you going for certain departments? Is it business? Is it engineering? Or is it for the right DNA person? What is it?
What you said, first and foremost, the right DNA. Most of them are mechanical engineering, electrical engineering. Accounting will pick up someone from a business or finance degree. Marketing will pick up 1 or 2 from a marketing area. At the end of the day, though, we do this thing called the intern rodeo, and we learned about 8 or 9 years ago that you got to get interns early because they're looking at next summer, the fall before, and so in the fall we end up doing an intern rodeo where we'll have 8 or 10, maybe more than that, Baker Group folks, and we'll probably invite, I'm going to say 30 possible interns in. They show up for half a day. We have different rooms in the building sectored off, and they'll go from room to room and interview. At the end of I think we do it for 2 days. I've been kind of out of it the last couple of years, but at the end of the day, people all sit down, go through their notes. There's some kids that you're like not a good fit, or we have to take this kid. We need to move on them fast. And then there's some that are kind of in between.
Okay. Well, John, tell me what are the top 3 things you look for that your company looks for in that DNA that's going to match? I mean, a lot of times you probably got a lot of talented, but it's about matching the fit with your company, right? Well, give us. You probably have core values and mission and vision. Kind of tell me what are 3 qualities of that individual for them to be able to get hired at Baker Group?
Yeah, so we have 4 core values. Care about people, love what you do, mentally tough, and others focused. And we can talk about those later if you want. But
yes,
if you can interview a kid and pick up on 2 or 3 of those things on an interview, hands down, we're going to try and grab them.
Let's talk about those core values.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Go. You got 4 core values.
4 core values.
In my company, I think we're setting with like 10 core values. And I think that's too much.
We had 13.
You had 13.
We rewrote them about like in 2020 or 21.
See, yeah. and I want you to step in on this, and then I want you to go through your core values and talk about that. And I want your input. We were at 13, and we're at 10, I believe right now. But we're thinking about condensing them again. Monty, what do you see in the companies you work with? I know you work with people anywhere from $1 million revenue to $1 billion. What do you see? Is there a certain amount of core values? Is there too many? Not enough? What would you say?
Yeah, I actually recommend 4 to 6 because it's not too many, but it's not too few. But it's about getting clear on how can we really identify what we want out of a person that we want to work for us. And if you have too many, you're looking for a unicorn out there that has too many things. And so you've got to have the right number that you can say, just as you said, if they've got 2 or 3 of those, that's going to be a great fit.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a great number, is 4 to 6, somewhere in there.
4 to 6. That's a good point, because you're right. When you go through those core values, and I'm sure you went through this, it is kind of gray. But if you dig into the deep ones, 4 to 6, that you're more focused and more detail, more clarity. So let's go through your core values.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. So care about people, love what you do, mentally tough, and own it. So we rewrote these, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago. Gary Bridgewater led the effort to do this. And when we did this, we agreed that we were going to hire and fire by these 4 core values. And it was not a sit down in 45 minutes do this. This was a couple months of effort. And what was fun is what we had is 13, taking all the good stuff out of those, kind of consolidating them. And I think at one point we were at about 6. We were like, let's get it to 4. And when we got to 4, we went around the room and said, all right, let's pick some individuals who we know are Baker Group. And do they fit these 4 core values? Yep. And then we backed into it and we said, okay, let's pick 2 or 3 people that don't work here anymore. And do they fit those core values? And every single one of them, you'd be like, oh, they fit one, or they don't fit any, or, and so it was really fun to go through that process. But then being able to live by those things, I mean, to me, every one of those things is like what I live for every day, and so everybody has embraced it. It drives our culture. It's a cool thing.
Tell us more about the culture, because you said that your leadership model is inwardly sound and others focused.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means and how that relates to the core values and your culture that you're driving as a leadership model.
Yeah. So inwardly sound and others focused. We talked earlier about in the service of others, leadership in the service of others. But before you can do that, you have to be inwardly sound. And so the easy way for me to describe that is like, you have to be good with yourself. Like I have as many flaws or more than the next guy, and I'm okay with those flaws. And part of inwardly sound is being vulnerable, having courage, and being self-aware. And if you can be self-aware and know that you have these flaws, or own your mistakes, any of that kind of stuff, like you can be good with yourself and you can work on those things that you're not good at or your flaws that you have. And being able to have courage to lead other people and be in service of others. And I don't know, most acts of courage include vulnerability, right? And so having those things as a part of it. But a big part, so that's in the inwardly sound part of it. The other part of our culture that I like to talk about is freedom and responsibility. And the two go hand in hand. They seem like they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. You can't have responsibility without freedom, and you can't have freedom without responsibility. And that is a big part of our culture. We don't, if you need to go to the doctor in the middle of the day, nobody cares that you need to go to the doctor. Go do it. Or if you need to go help with a family member, go do it. Because we trust that you have the responsibility to do the job whenever else you need to do it to get that done.
I really like those two words, freedom and responsibility, because if you don't give them the freedom, they're not going to accept it.
Yeah.
They're not going to go after it. They're not going to own it.
Right.
And so without that freedom, they can't think them for themselves.
Right.
And make those decisions. So decision making, how do you do decision making in the company? Because that relates to these two words right there.
It does. Decisions around a client, we empower our project managers and our assistant project managers to make decisions that benefit the client first. And we empower them to do it however they need to do it, unless it's some kind of catastrophic thing, right, where you need to get other people involved. But on a day-to-day basis, people make decisions all the time, and they're empowered to make decisions so that they can make decisions quick, act quickly, and move. And it's always in the benefit of the client. Yeah.
So putting the client first is really important.
It's really important.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't have anything to do without them.
How do you ensure that on every job? How do you ensure that in your training with the team? How do you get that instilled to your people to put customer first?
It's a really good question. It's a hard question for me to answer because we do it every day and we don't really think about how we do it. But we spend a lot of time. This seller doer business model is all focused around the client and putting them first. Whether it's the first time you meet them, whether it's the execution of the project, or the backside when we're servicing them, following up, hoping that they're going to do another project someday, building a relationship with them. We spend a lot of time talking about relationships and having relationships with your clients. It's really fun to have a relationship with a person who calls you up someday and says, "Hey, I have a project that I'd really like to get you involved with," versus hearing that someone that you know has a project that you haven't talked to for 2 years and picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, buddy, heard you got this project." And so we really try to focus on managing that relationship so that we're not the people calling at the last minute feeling like a heel.
Right. Absolutely.
So
You mentioned a phrase that I want you to explain to our audience, the achiever. You said seller doer.
Yeah.
Business model.
Yeah.
Tell us more what that means. I think I'm going to guess it relates to that freedom and responsibility as well, but tell us a little bit more about that.
So we really don't hire salespeople. We hire project managers and we teach them to sell. And so every project manager in our company has some degree of responsibility for selling, whether it's building relationships on a job site and selling work and growing work, or whether it's a project manager that's grown to not really doing much business development or selling, or not doing a lot of project management, but doing a lot more selling. But they all balance and still do some of both. But for the most part, I'd say 75 to 80% of our project managers, they're responsible for finding their own work, selling it, executing it, following up on it after the fact, introducing to service when it's applicable. It's always applicable, but sometimes more than others. But it's really, the business model really is about having that one person that's always a part of the project, from procurement of it to the completion of it. And like I said earlier, that means that person, when they're selling it, they're making promises about how this project is going to go and how it's going to turn out. Well, it turns out they're the ones that have to execute it too. And so they have to keep those promises. Mm-hmm. And to us, we were told, I'm going to say 8 or 9 years ago, we had brought in a consultant. They said, this business model is not you can't grow forever this way. And somehow we've figured out to go from an $80 million company at that time to over a $500 million company. So we have it figured out.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great model of accountability.
Yep.
And it forces people to really have ownership of that customer.
It drives the responsibility thing for sure.
Yeah.
It also gives, you said it leads to the freedom and the responsibility. The responsibility part is the keeping the promise. The freedom part is go do what you have to do. We don't care how you have to do it or when you have to do it. If you need to go sell all day and you're not going to make it to the office, good. Go sell all day. Go project manage all day. Go help your field staff all day. Do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And then because you're responsible to do it.
And as building leaders.
Yep.
And that's clarity. I really like what you said earlier. When hiring that person and that right person is, something you said, John, we all have flaws. I have my diseases. We all do.
Yeah.
And we just got to figure out how to overcome those. And that's the way you probably grew up. You picked up those habits. But recognizing those will help you get better. And I think I really like that. And you're hiring those people that don't come on with a huge ego. You're hiring people that actually know who they are and what they are, and they're probably they're driven, goal driven.
Yep.
And which makes them tough, and they're going to see through to that. And I'm guessing if that one ingredient of taking it from 80 to over $500 million was hiring those people.
Yeah.
It's not
all about the
it's
people.
not the gat. It's all about the people.
It is. All
We talk
the
about
people.
that all the time.
Yeah.
You can have the greatest computer in the world, but if you don't have the right people out there to build it and grow it and scale it, you can't do it.
No. It is for us. It's all about the people, getting the right people in the right seats.
Absolutely, it is.
You know, you mentioned earlier that you're an ESOP,
Yeah.
and a lot of our audience, the achievers, are CEOs, business owners. Tell us a little bit about that process and how you got there, and what it looks like today.
Yep. So BJ, when he decided it was time to transition the company, he probably had 5 or 6 different options.
And this is the founder's son.
Yep.
And
Yep. So Bernie, first generation, BJ, second generation, employee owners is really the third generation of owners, which is pretty cool to be able to say. But in 2019, he worked it out that he was going to just do an ESOP, transitioned it, the ownership to the ESOP. It's probably the most selfless thing that he's ever did as a leader.
Absolutely, I agree with you, John, because he could have went to a private equity and disappeared.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
He's, through his efforts, he will create generational wealth for a lot of people. So it's been a great transition for us. One of the things that's cool about it is it didn't happen immediately, but you have the frontline people that are in front of clients all the time, the seller doers. They're the people that are responsible for bringing in revenue to the company. But you also have this robust we call it shared services, but it's accounting, it's human resources, it's IT. And as we became an ESOP, as we got further into it, those people realized somewhere along the lines, and I think it happened one person at a time, but those people start realizing that they can do things to take things off of people's plates that are bringing in revenue, right? A project accountant can, if her scope of work used to be X, Y, and Z, she may have increased it to X, Y, and Z and 1, 2, 3 because she knows the more that she's doing for that PM is out trying to sell more work, trying to manage better work. And so it happened really, really slowly, but that's how they contribute. They make the people that are out in the front lines with clients more.
That's a perfect example of great leadership because that's clarity and communication. That can never be done in a big organization like going from 80 to $500 million. That's what you call great leadership, clarity, and then having the team, just like you say, they started seeing it.
Yeah.
And if that guy's out there selling and that guy in the back room can actually pick up a little bit of that work off that sales, he's going to bring the more revenue. Everybody makes more money. Everybody wins.
Yep.
Everybody's acting like the owner because they have a skin in the game.
They now have skin in the game. Yeah. We have a project coordinator staff. Every business unit has at least one project coordinator, maybe 2 or 3, depending on the size of them. And in the old days, PMs had all kinds of, I'm going to say, paperwork type responsibilities that they do. Project coordinators do almost all that work for a PM now, which enables a PM to be out in front of clients, managing work on the job site, leading his field staff, all that stuff. So
that's great. How did the employees respond when you went through that process? What kind of process did you go through to get people to understand it and then be a part of it?
How long did it take? Yeah.
To get people on board?
Yeah, get them on board. Yeah. Because going to an ESOP's not easy.
No, it was a celebration. The day he did it, the day that they announced it, it was a big celebration. We did it in our marketplace. People were pretty jazzed about it. our stock price started really low, and so it took a while for it to get where people could recognize in their accounts that they were building wealth. And in the last couple of years, it's really gotten to a point where, your question, I'd say 4 years probably, where people got on board, but there were people that maybe
A little
skeptical. That's a great word. Until they really started seeing the stock price go, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Wow, this is the real deal."
Yeah, you guys are a good example of why to do an ESOP with the right situation. It doesn't always work out for everybody, but
No.
you guys had the right core values and the people in the seats, so that works out.
I want to switch the topic just a little bit. I want to talk about you, how you've grown as a leader.
Okay.
How would you say you're different today than you were a few years ago as a leader, and how you've grown to be in the position that you are today?
So that's a good question, and if you let's go back 5 years, 2020, 2021. My business is about 70% direct to the owner, so not in a typical construction. And in 2020, every building in Des Moines got shut down, and owners didn't need security systems. And so for about 3 years, I would, when I first started as a business unit leader, I led in a growth model, like we're going to grow this thing. And then I went to leading in the survival mode for about 3 years, where here's an example. Before the pandemic, on average, every week we opened up 7 jobs in just my business. For 18 months after we shut down the world, we opened up 0.75 jobs for 18 months. And so we had to make hard decisions. We survived because we're part of this greater big organization. But so I spent 3 years leading in survival mode. And then I spent a couple of years leading in rebuilding mode. And now I'm leading in thrive mode again, in grow mode, which is really a lot more fun than survival mode and rebuild mode.
That's a sad thing what the government did, shutting us down like that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you said after you went to ESOP, you celebrated. How do you celebrate your wins? How often do you celebrate wins? And do you have team meetings? How does that work?
We don't celebrate our wins very well. Yeah. We are a company full of grinders.
Right.
And we
Those
get up
engineers,
and,
Iowa State, grinders. You're right about that.
We don't do a good job of celebrating. We try, but we just don't. We don't celebrate very well. We're trying to get better at it, but
yeah. Well, you guys, when you grew that much in the last 7-8 years, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's grinding.
And part of that, don't get me wrong, part of that was really hard because we grew too fast for a period of time, and we had field staff at job sites with not enough tools, or we brought people on and didn't have trucks for them, it did happen for a period of time we were growing in shit mode.
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah. There was a point a couple years ago where Bridgewater came to us and he said, basically to all the business unit leaders, and he said, "Hey, I think we need to try."
This is your CEO.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gary Bridgewater, CEO. He came to us and said, "Hey, I think we need to pause at this revenue amount and just get really good. If we can pause here for a couple years and just get back to the basics and get really good." And so we tried to do that. And then we took off growing again. But at least we had some time to really grow. And
that's a good point he just brought up. And I know you're probably going to elaborate on this, but if you got to build the foundation out, a strong foundation, and this happens to companies all the time, because I've built companies and this has happened to me, is you can grow so fast, and if you don't have the foundation, all you're going to do is collapse.
Yeah.
You think, you're breaking, and Brandon Dawson, he always talks about this, building the glass building, you're building it, now you're up at the 3rd level and you're breaking the 10 million and the 25, but you didn't fix it here. Your foundation collapse and you will go reverse. And that's tougher to come out of. And so for your CEO to recognize that growth and to build that foundation a few inches thicker to make sure you can go to that next level, it's really huge. Could you touch on that a little bit, on Monty, about how I know you deal with people that you've seen be very successful and collapse? Kind of talk a little bit about how that.
Well, I think there's two components of it. It's the business can outgrow the inside of the organization, but it can also outgrow the leadership team. Yeah. And I would imagine at that same time, you had to build the leadership team to how strong are we at certain skills? Sure. How do we need to lead better? Because we're going to be adding more people. We're going to be getting less time, whatever it is. So you've got to make sure that you're not outgrowing not only the structure of the organization, but the people of the organization.
That's a great point, because you take a guy, you're making $75 million. You got to pay your CEO. You got to get somebody to pay him $1 million to run. But that guy can run a $75 million company, can't run a $3 million company. A $3 million, it's really unique, and people don't understand that sometimes. And a lot of times, the founders usually the lid because they think they got to control everything. In your situation, you were fortunate enough that it sounds like your whole team just kept bringing talent in and keep growing. You had to. And that's a whole different topic. We could probably go down that rabbit hole, but today is probably not the day. But what a wonderful, this has been a wonderful conversation. And I love the clarity on your core values. I love the clarity on the people you hire, and clarity of where you're going. And I think a lot of people will get a lot of gray area when they're trying to grow a company. But if you got clarity on where you're going and everybody's on the same team, see that excels the whole team, the whole company.
So what's a ceiling that either you personally or the Baker Group is trying to break through right now? What's a ceiling you're going to the next level with?
So I have a ceiling in front of me. When I became a business unit leader 7 years ago, from then we went through this COVID thing and rebuilt. We've doubled in size since I became the business unit leader. And our plan by 2030 is to double in size again. And so just kind of going from like survival mode, leadership as a survivor, leadership as a rebuilder, and now a growth mode is really kind of that ceiling. Like, oh, we just got to keep, like, here's a great example. Last quarter, I built a staffing plan, and the staffing plan we completed in the first quarter of the year. And in this next quarter, I've got 4 or 5 priorities around people and adding more people. And it's kind of a mindset like we weren't doing that 3 years ago. And now like it's constant looking for the right person and
so you're looking to double your company.
Double my business, the technology business. Yep.
But you take a company like the Baker Group, an ESOP, and whatever that time is, which I believe in where you're going, you guys will, the whole company will double at some time in the near future, which I'm saying less than 10 years.
We might double in the next year.
Well, so the point of what I want to get to on that, and so if you can do it next year, 2 years, God bless you. But you just built what we talked about earlier, wealth for those employees. Yeah. It's forever type wealth if managed correctly.
Yeah. I have a kid.
Generational.
I call him a kid. He's 29 years old. He started as an intern. We hired him. He started right before we became an ESOP. He was fully vested at age 28 years old. And if he stays here till he's 55, I mean, he will have been in it the whole time. It's awesome.
He'll be worth millions.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat? That's why we love America. Yeah. And you get with the right team, what you can do.
Absolutely.
God bless it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a great interview.
Well, it has been a great conversation. I want to reinforce a couple things that you shared.
Yeah.
Having clear core values that you hire and fire on.
Yep.
And you're making sure that they have those behaviors and how they think and how they act. So I love that. And I love your leadership model. And I think it's something that every business needs to take a hold of, is creating your leadership model.
Yep.
Of inwardly sound, others focused. Because it takes care of putting, we've got to grow ourselves.
Yep.
And we've got to help others grow.
Yep.
And when we do that, the business will grow.
Yep.
So I love that you share that. And I also love the freedom and responsibility statement, that you give people the freedom, but they have to have the freedom to get the responsibility. And when they have the responsibility, they have the freedom.
Yep.
So I really love that. So appreciate you sharing those stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one thing I always like to ask at the end is, what do you want to be known for?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask that. I've listened to enough of your podcasts. And I didn't know I couldn't answer that for a while. And probably 2 weeks ago, I took a guy to lunch, and he started talking. I moved this guy he was an installer. We moved him in to be a sales engineer, and he's knocking it out of the park. So we went to lunch, and he started talking about this time, probably 3 or 4 years ago. His son was in a coma at the University of Iowa. And I happened to be in Cedar Rapids. I knew this was going on. He wasn't working. And I just texted him and said, hey, I'm going to bring you and your wife lunch. And so he was talking about that 4 years later. And he said, the words to me, he said, you showed up in my life on the worst week of my life. And so I started thinking about, that struck me. And so I want to be known as somebody that showed up for people, whether it showed up as a mentor, showed up on the worst week of their life, showed up to help me on a Saturday, showed up for something, showed up for my wife, showed up for my son, showed up for my daughter-in-law in some way, showed up as a leader, something.
That's fantastic. I think that brings a lot of meaning to it as well.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of influence, and that's really what it's about. It's influencing other people and how you make an impact.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you joining us on the show.
I love it. This was fun.
You shared some great stories of not only about yourself, but the Baker Group and how you've grown.
Yeah.
And growing your leadership is a big part of it. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
So
thanks for having me.
Encourage our audience, the Achiever, to take some of these ideas and put them into practice and continue to grow yourself as a leader. So thanks for joining us, and make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.